When someone is suffering through a spell of vertigo, it feels as though the world around them is spinning. They may feel like they can't find their footing, or that their eyes can't seem to make sense of the landscapes that surround them. In elementary school, I would shake and cry every day. My teacher would ask me what was wrong, but I never knew how to answer. I could only tell her that I missed my mom and I wanted to go home. She let me leave class to use a computer to email my mom. It never really helped. I just used it as an excuse to get away and try and calm down. In high school, I was shaking while I was sitting in English class. I forgot to do my homework. Again. We were popcorn reading and I was next. I lost vision in my left eye. The words on the page became illegible. I was trying to read the word briefcase. Briefcase. I went down to the nurse's office and threw up. My brother drove me home and I blacked out in the car. I keep telling my family that I think I have vertigo. My dad tells me to stop diagnosing myself off of the internet. He thinks I'm a hypochondriac. He says that my mom was too. In college, I was sitting in a small lecture trying to fight off a migraine. I soon noticed that my right eye was going blurry. Then I began to grow faint. An overwhelming sense of nausea rose through my body and into my eyeballs, and the class began to spin. I could no longer make sense of my surroundings. I asked a friend to drive me to urgent care. I stood hunched over at the front desk, and the receptionist asked me to sign my name on a piece of paper, but I could barely see the line. I tried to text my family to tell them what was going on, but I couldn't understand their messages. When my mom died, I blacked out for a week. I can't recall much of her funeral, except for when I was leaving the bathroom and a friend of mine stopped me. She asked me if I would sell her some of my pills. I had stolen them from my mom's room. I noticed that my principal was there too. He tried to offer me his condolences, but he couldn't quite remember my name. I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder when I was 17 years old. I was surprised when I was given the diagnosis, not because I didn't believe that I had it, but because someone had finally said it. They put a title to the sensation that had gone unnamed up until that point. People are always telling me how good meditation is for an anxious brain. One time I went with a friend of mine to a group meditation class to see for myself. I sat with my legs crossed and my hands together in my lap. We took a few deep breaths, and he began to guide us through the practice by telling us to think about a person we love. I thought about my dad. He told us to send this person positive energy. I couldn't stop thinking about my hands. I began to imagine them as being miniature. Then my legs fell asleep. They no longer felt attached to me. My hands were growing and shrinking with every breath that I took. The room began to grow and shrink and spin and flip. The guiding voice turned into murmurs, and I could no longer hear it over the pounding in my skull. I started to feel liquid pouring out of my eyes. I thought that maybe I was crying, but then the liquid began to pour out of my ears as well. I thought that they were bleeding. I sat in this state for the rest of the practice. I didn't think to open my eyes until I heard the guiding voice tell me to. When I did, my hands were the correct size and my legs were attached to my body. My eyes and ears were dry and the room was still.